So, hello Sycamore CrossFit. I am with Sycamore CrossFit athlete Chris Walters, an extremely inspiring person who has come here. He's gone through much more than any of us can even imagine. Him and I are going to go through some personal experiences regarding CrossFit and not only its impact on physical health but mental well-being. So thank you, Chris, for being here with us. So background on Chris: he started CrossFit weighing 255. He's now down to 227 pounds. That's almost a 30-pound jump within only 3 months, so that's awesome. He used to use nicotine products, but now he's off of it thanks to CrossFit and also his own influence on wanting to get better as a person. And he is from Bolingbrook, is that what you said? Bolingbrook. He's really into cars. He fell in love with cars around the age of 21. Since then he's been working as an auto mechanic.
Forklift mechanic.
Forklift mechanic, and where'd you say that was at again?
Crown Equipment Corp.
Crown Equipment, okay. So he's there right now. He's been there for 10 years, 10 and a half coming up, right? And then he's got 2 little dogs, one named Elwood and one named Jake. And yeah, so let's get started. So, Chris, what was your reasoning for joining CrossFit in the first place?
One of my coworkers, I wanted to get out and get into the gym, but I knew I had failed so many times in the past doing just your normal everyday gym stuff because I would just go and have no idea what I was doing and feel like an idiot. And then that would just cause me to not go back.
Right.
One of my coworkers does CrossFit and he recommended it. Quick Google search, I found Sycamore CrossFit and I sent an email at like 1 o'clock in the morning to do the No Sweat intro. And I've been here ever since.
And that is a huge thing that we see with a lot of people too, is that they go to a regular gym and they do great for like a month, but then they get to this point where they get in this, either they don't have a routine, they don't know what to do, or they get stuck in the same routine and it gets super boring. And then they find CrossFit and it's like, we're doing different stuff every day, and then that's when people really get really into CrossFit. So you're not alone when it comes to that aspect, and I'm sure a lot of people have that same experience. So, what are your goals? What were your goals when you started, and then how have your goals changed these past 3 months? Have you developed newer goals, or are you still going for some that you've already set? Kind of just talk about those.
When I first started, a lot of my goals was just to be able to get through the workouts in the time frame allotted, and then within a month I hit that. So then I started setting other goals for running and burpees and just any other workout component I could do. And just every time I set a goal, it's been beaten pretty quick. So, I mean, I just beat 2 of my goals this week, so now I've got to figure out new goals to set. So,
okay, so now we're going to go into the date of May 12th of 2018, so this year. It's a very influential date for you, especially. Just kind of talk about what happened say even year before that date happened that caused you to feel the way you did, and your experience on May 12th of this year.
I have been dealing with some form of depression for the last probably 15 years, along with ADHD issues on top of it. And I had used it as excuses not to do this or not to do that or not to do this, and just not get stuff done like I should have done. Probably the catalyst for a lot of my stuff was my relationship breaking down, and it just happened over a couple years to where my relationship broke down with my ex-fiance. And then finally when she left, I didn't have any rock to lean on anymore. It was just me by myself, and that's when I just completely broke down. And just one Saturday afternoon, I woke up from a nap and attempted to kill myself. I still don't remember a ton about it, other than the few things I do remember is the only thing I did was I texted my ex saying, hey, you should probably come pick up the dogs later, and then being in the hospital with my cousin a couple hours later. I don't remember much more after that. I do know my the way I look at it, my ex-fiance saved my life. So,
And during that time, when you were coming up to that date, you felt like because you lost your fiance and she left, you had no other options besides how you felt.
I had plans in place for me to kill myself for probably 6 months prior to any of that happening. I just never had the catalyst to push me. And then probably a month after she left, I had just beaten myself down and down and down and made myself just absolutely feel like crap enough that I tried.
So going through, you said it was about 15 years of feeling depression and all that other stuff going on, ADHD. Did you ever seek help to a hospital or a professional to try to help you with this?
Plenty of times, and it failed every single time because I wasn't as open and honest as I should have been. I kept holding things back and keeping things inside and not saying what was really going on, and that just didn't help me at all.
I understand why you weren't expressing how you felt with those people, but can you just explain why you felt like why you had to hold some things in?
I had a crippling fear and anxiety of being committed or being labeled insane, and that kept me from telling people what was really going on inside. And then after my suicide attempt and while I was in the hospital, that's when I figured there was 2 roads to go. I could either get out of the hospital and finish what I had started, or get out of the hospital and just make a 180. And I decided to make the 180.
Awesome. Like I said, I totally understand with why you felt like you couldn't tell people about this stuff, because I know for a long time I struggled with bad anxiety, but I've never gone to the doctor really for it because I don't want to take medication, because I don't want to tell people all my problems and all my issues, because I don't want to be looked at as weak or something's wrong with me, and that's like a big thing. I feel like I'm a perfectionist in that manner, and I don't want people to think there's anything wrong with me, because I like to be that positive person. So that's why it hurts, or it's hard to go out and express those feelings. So I understand exactly.
And I was always the jokester. I was always the guy who everyone thought, oh, he's always joyful, he's always happy. And a big thing in the last probably 2 years that caused me to open up a bit more was Robin Williams' suicide and then Chester Bennington's suicide, because it was both people who projected that happy attitude all the time and jokester attitude, and inside they were dying.
Okay, so then after this date, like you said, you went to you were in the hospital for 4 days.
Yeah.
And then when you came out, you said, I got 2 options here, and you went with the route of, I'm going to go back home, and I'm going to, like you said, you do a 180, just change everything up. What was that drive? What really set you to go down that path? What was the clicking moment of, I'm going to do this because I really want to do this?
Probably it was actually in the hospital. There was one counselor at the hospital and a couple other patients at the hospital that inspired me to open up in the hospital. And then just from that first day in the hospital, I realized I'm not going to get out of here if I don't do something positive. And then from that day, it was just a little bit more. Every 20 minutes of the day, I thought more and more positive, more and more positive. And I realized I'm not a bad person or anything that I thought I was. So when you finally came to Sycamore CrossFit and you tried the foundation stuff and the first 2 weeks, how did you feel after those first 2 weeks of getting into CrossFit compared to when you weren't doing CrossFit? Tired. And just...
Has that changed though?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Still tired.
Yeah.
But just more of a positive outlook for what can come out of it. Being the attitude and the motivation of just being here makes it just enjoying coming here every day, even though I leave here exhausted.
So like you said, CrossFit's great because whenever you come in here, you've got that positive attitude. You got the coaching. What else can you say about to someone who's thinking about maybe joining CrossFit? What would you say to them as to try to get them that one foot in the door?
Don't pay attention to anything you actually read online about CrossFit. Don't pay attention to what the workouts say. Don't pay attention to what some crazy CrossFit videos online say. Just come in, you know, check it out. Hopefully I've got a couple people signing up just because it's, you know, just because you don't think you can do something, you can scale it down until you can do that thing. Yeah. And that's what I've done this whole time, is I've been able to push myself to, all right, well, I couldn't really do burpees that well before, and then I started doing them, and then I made a goal to do 10 unbroken. Now I've done 10 unbroken, now I have to find a new goal for that. So.
Exactly. Have you noticed any correlations with your goals and attitudes towards CrossFit? Like, say the burpees thing, I'm going to try to do 10, or I'm going to try to do this, try to do them unbroken. Have you noticed any like reflection on the outside world, like your work life, that's done like the same thing, changed your attitude of, you know what, maybe I can't do this right now, but I'm going to try to do this, and then see if I can work up to that? Have you seen any correlation?
Oh, absolutely. Just about every challenge I've faced outside of CrossFit is related to the challenges I've faced inside. I mean, it's the entire mindset and attitude and everything that happens here completely translates to everything else in my life.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, so now after 3 months, how do you think CrossFit has helped you mentally and emotionally as opposed to just losing 30 pounds? Even though that's an amazing goal, what can you say about your mental health now?
For my mental health, it's changed my entire kind of outlook towards everything. You know, before I was always this fake smile and fake positive person out towards the world, and then I would go home and I would just be sad, depressed, lay on the couch and not do anything. Now I go home and I take my dogs for walks, I do resistance band stuff, I drum for an hour.
Meal prep.
I make little goals for myself at home, and I keep accomplishing them instead of before it was like, oh, I'll get to that next week. And now it's just constantly just one after another. There hasn't been, you know, as the coaches here have told me 100 times, it's not, you know, 100% about your scale. It's not 100% about the body fat. It's not, you know, it's what you enjoy outside of this building, if that improves. And I mean, drumming is a huge thing for me. So I've gone from being able to drum for 10, 15 minutes straight to being now able to drum for 45 minutes to an hour straight without having to stop. Plus, my back pain and everything else is much less when I'm drumming because I've learned posture here and I've translated that into drumming. I've learned ergonomics here and translated that into drumming. So just about every aspect of this stuff has helped me out there. So especially at work, being a heavy equipment mechanic. So
right, that's awesome. The reason why I was so excited to do this with you is because, like I said, I struggle with anxiety big time, and if it wasn't for CrossFit, I'd be a really big mess. I've only had a couple very minor anxiety attacks where I've had to call my dad and have him calm me down because he had the similar issues. My dad was put on medication for anxiety, and it was because my mom actually forced him to go to the hospital, and he was like, no, nothing's wrong with me. Kind of like, we had a similar situation where we didn't want to reach out for help, he didn't want to do the same thing. And he said, my mom told me after a week of having him on medication, there was one time where he just told her straight up, thank you so much for putting me on this medication because I don't know how I was living before. And it's a big deal. Mental health is a huge deal. And this is kind of like CrossFit, as like I'd say, is our cure, is our medication for what we need to push us through stuff and to help us outside and to help us out with all of the things that all the struggles that we have outside of here in their own personal lives. And that's just kind of why I was so excited to do it, because I relate with a lot of things that you were saying. That being said, do you have any questions for me? Any questions about the gym? Anything you want to talk? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to talk about?
Just don't be afraid to try it. I mean, it's not there's always a way to scale it down, or there's, you know, there's no mirrors, there's no anything, there's no judgment. You come in, you work out, there's people that are super fit cheering on everyone else, and you know, it's just, it's an overall exciting and positive atmosphere. Even though you're exhausted, you're still excited. So.
Right, exactly. And that's the reason why we come in here, is to get exhausted just so we can all talk about it in 15 minutes or whatever. Okay, well, with that being said, I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for doing this, Chris. We're out.